This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Cast iron pans. You can't put them in the dishwasher. You probably shouldn't cook very acidic foods in them. You probably shouldn't use hard, sharp tools on them. You have to constantly season them using this messy, smelly process that nobody seems to fully understand. They rust if you don't give them regular maintenance, and if they do rust or you mess up the seasoning really bad, you might have to restore them with some kind of Bond villain execution situation.
The electrolysis is really popping at this point. That's all that buildup being broken down.
Why do people love these things? Well, some people don't, and in fact, I'm kind of on the fence about it, but I'm going to try to give you the best argument for cast iron. I think there are two overarching virtues for these pans. I'm going to tell you about those, and in the process, we'll cover all the basic use and maintenance stuff. The earliest known cast iron was produced in the 5th century BCE in China, modern Jiangsu province. Europeans didn't get hip to it until the 14th century CE, when it presented them with new and interesting ways to kill each other. And what exactly is cast iron? Well, it's generally defined as an iron-carbon alloy that's at least 2% carbon. The carbon is what makes it black. The cast part refers to the process by which this is shaped. The iron is melted and then poured into a mold made out of sand. That's casting. This is the Medellin, Colombia factory of Victoria Cookware, maker of what Epicurious calls the best pre-seasoned 12-inch cast iron skillet. I asked the general manager at Victoria, Andres Mejia, why in the 21st century would you still be working with an ancient material like cast iron when you could be working with a modern material that doesn't rust and that you can put in the dishwasher, like stainless steel?
First of all, the cost. It will be extremely expensive.
Indeed. This is a 12-inch stainless steel pan made by Sardell in Italy. You should know that they sent it to me for free, but they're not paying me any money. It's a really good pan, but it costs about $100. Victoria's highly rated 12-inch pan costs about $30. Why is this so much more expensive?
The geometries that you can get, is typically stainless steel is stamped.
Stamp it. A pan like this is made by taking a thin sheet of steel and stamping out the shape. If it's a cheap, thin pan like this little one, that basically could be the end of the process. But for a quality pan like this Sardell one, then you make it thicker by layering multiple stamped sheets on top of each other. This is a 5-ply pan, so it's 5 layers. That's a more expensive process, and one of the reasons they do it is that steel is comparatively hard to cast into a mold. You have to heat the steel to a higher temperature to melt it, and then when you do, it doesn't flow as well as iron. Cast steel also shrinks a lot as it cools, which causes all kinds of problems. Iron doesn't do that. You just make a mold in any shape you want, pour in the iron, and you're done.
And the geometries that you can make is whatever you can imagine. The handles that you can produce, the pouring spouts, the thickness.
Ah yes, the thickness. Cast iron is simply by far the least expensive way to make a thick, heavy pan. Heavy-bottomed pans have more thermal mass, meaning they can absorb and store a lot more heat from your burner to transfer into your food. You can take a cheap, thin pan and get it screaming hot on the stove, but the second you lay a steak in there, what little heat is stored in the pan will transfer into the meat, and suddenly the pan itself won't be that hot anymore. It'll take time to rebound, and you won't get as good a crust. A thick, heavy pan serves as a kind of regulator between your stove and your food. It heats up slowly and cools down slowly, so it cooks your food more evenly. This is especially advantageous on natural fires, which can be kind of unpredictable and hard to control. Cast iron remains the favorite cookware of campers everywhere. It's also especially good on electric burners, which constantly cycle on and off. If you're using a crappy thin pan, things might be going great, but then the burner cycles back on, and all of a sudden the heat shoots up and your food starts burning. A heavy pan just smooths everything out, and cast iron is by far the least expensive material with which to make a big, thick, heavy pan, with the possible exception of aluminum. But aluminum is way less dense than iron, therefore you would literally have to make an aluminum pan 3 times as thick as this in order to get one that has the same weight, and that would be dumb. That's why no one does that. Plus, aluminum isn't magnetic, therefore you can't use it on an induction burner. Iron works great on induction. But back to steel for a second. sec. Another reason steel is expensive is that you gotta make the handles separately and then bolt them on. You can't stamp this out with the rest of the pan shape. I mean, you can, but it'll be kind of a funny shape like this clever design by the knife maker Takayuki Shibata. Cool piece, but for obvious reasons, steel cookware handles are usually bolted on, and that connection is a weak point. It can loosen over time. Iron you cast in three-dimensional molds, so it's all integrated. It's one piece. It's cheaper to make and far more durable. So durable that people today are cooking on iron pans that are 100 years old or even older. This is my buddy David Ragsdale's garage in Athens, Georgia, where he is a beloved high school English teacher and advisor to the student news magazine. His side hustle is finding and restoring collectible cast iron antiques and selling them online. Link to his store is in the description. He's a public school teacher and a good guy. Throw him some business.
I wondered to myself, can I restore it? So I started experimenting with a lot of different setups, from the easy off method that I showed you to the lye bath to electrolysis bath, and a lot of trial and error, and I realized I could sell these pieces, and these are so cool, man. You can do brownies in these, you can do cornbread in these. It's probably some of the most versatile cookware you can use. You can braise in it, you can go from stovetop to the oven, you can sear, you can bake.
So there you go. That's what I would consider to be the first of the two primary virtues of cast iron cookware. It is simply the least expensive way to make an incredibly high quality pan in any shape you could possibly want. You can buy it when you're young and you have no money, and then you can watch your grandkids cook with it. It's good stuff. The second great virtue of cast iron cookware, you can make it pretty non-stick. That's what seasoning is. You rub on a little oil and then you literally burn it. This causes the oil to break down and polymerize, very similar to how plastics are made. You can create a glassy surface called a patina that is almost as non-stick as Teflon. I use Teflon pans. The health and safety concerns about them are really overblown. I have a whole video about that that's in the description. What's not overblown is the environmental hazards of Teflon production. If you don't want to be a part of that, then cast iron is the next best thing. Most cast iron manufacturers these days are pre-seasoning their pans at the factory. This is the seasoning line at Victoria.
But in order to have a very good non-stick surface, you have to do it little by little.
Right, even Andres there will tell you that his factory seasoning is not enough. You at home have to build up lots of thin layers of seasoning on top of each other, like lacquer. Why can't they just slap on a super thick layer at the plant?
A thick layer, you're not going to get a seasoning, because you're going to get like a burn oil, and it's going to be a crust that is not going to hold on the surface.
It'll just chip off, or worse, if you use too much oil, the surface won't come out hard and glassy, it'll come out kind of gunky and sticky. Some people say that's due to insufficient carbon deposition, whatever that means, but here's the thing. As far as I can tell, no one has done scholarly research on seasoning cast iron pans. You know, what kind of oil works best, what kind of heat works best, and what kind of procedure works best. If you are a graduate student in material science or something, I think a great dissertation or thesis project is hiding in plain sight here. The manufacturers have no doubt done plenty of proprietary research, and the folks at Victoria have landed on an oil they like best for seasoning. Here's Andres Mejia's son, Manuel, who's the main product designer at the company.
What we use is flaxseed oil. Any type of natural or vegetable oil has polymer properties. Particularly, the flaxseed oil has a better transformation through a heating process into becoming a hard polymer than others.
It creates a harder patina. The idea to use flax oil apparently originated with a 2011 blog post by a woman named Cheryl Cantor, and it has spread far and wide. Flax is extremely high in alpha-linoleic acid, which for science reasons is apparently great at polymerizing. You often find it in the dietary supplements instead of the cooking oil section. But people successfully season cast iron pans with any edible oil that you could think of. Saturated fats don't work as well, but even something like hog fat and animal fat has some unsaturated fat in it too. My buddy David thinks the flax patina is a little too hard, it tends to crack. He likes this buzzy wax stuff. It's a blend of oils made especially for seasoning. Or
a lot of my friends in the business, a lot of folks use a spray-on. You get a super even coat. It's a lot more efficient.
All right, let's season this antique pan that David gave me a while back. I'll heat it on medium-low heat for a good 10 minutes. People argue about what exactly this is doing. Maybe it's opening up the pores of the iron, but certainly it's evaporating any water that's still left in there. Then I'll just put in a little tiny bit of oil and smoosh it around everywhere with a paper towel. You want the thinnest layer possible, so rub it down until the oil seems to just disappear. Then put it upside down in the oven. This will allow excess oil to drip out and away from the cooking surface. Then some people say you got to heat the oven to the smoke point of the oil that you're using. Graduate student, please figure out if that's true. But lots of other people say just go to your oven's highest temperature, which is what I do, 500 degrees. Once that heats up, let the pan cook in there for an hour. It might get a little smelly because you're burning the oil. Turn off the oven and just let it gradually cool down in there. A few hours later, you'll have a nice new coat of seasoning. You want to be crazy about it? Do that again, 5 or 6 more times. You'll have a hell of a patina. Or you could just do it the old school way and cook with the damn thing. Make your food, then clean the pan. Super sharp or abrasive things could chip your seasoning, but gentle scrubbies are fine.
Warm water, just dig in there.
You might have heard that you can never use soap on a cast iron pan. Is that actually true?
You ask a million different people, they'll give you a million different answers. In the old days, in Grandma's day, so much of soap was based on lye. Lye would eat through your seasoning. Contemporary soap doesn't really have lye as a basis, so Dawn works.
Though that certainly won't stop a million people on the internet from saying that it doesn't. Again, graduate student, please figure this out. Then you dry your pan off, and the best way to do that is to put it back on the heat, just like before, to evaporate everything. Then run on a thin coat of oil, just like before, and then put the pan away. The oil forms a water-safe barrier against humidity in the air, preventing corrosion. And then, when you heat up the pan to cook with it the next time, that layer of oil will polymerize a little bit, and you repeat and you repeat and you repeat. If you start to see cracks or uneven spots in an old patina, you can do another proper round of seasoning in the oven. Now, whether chips of the seasoning or some of the iron could get into your food and then into your body and have some minor health implications, that's a conversation for another day. I'm going to do a whole video about the health implications of specific pans. But certainly acidic foods can cause some iron to leach from the pan, which can just taste gross. So maybe don't cook tomato sauce in here, but you know, some people do. And now you might be wondering, why can't I get the best of both worlds and simply season a stainless steel pan? Well, you can, and some people do, but it doesn't stick as well.
The best way is to have a mechanical adherence, and a cast iron has a rough surface. On the shiny surface that is stainless steel, the mechanical adherence is never as good as it in cast iron, so that's why it doesn't last.
Yeah, that porous surface is from the sand in the mold. And speaking of silica, another way to get the best of both worlds is to get enameled or glazed cast iron. It's basically a layer of glass that they bake on at extreme heat. With this, you've got all the thermal mass and shaping possibilities of cast iron, and it won't rust. You can put it in the dishwasher, and it won't react with acidic ingredients. But you can't really season it so it's not non-stick, and these pans are hella expensive. Now, with all that said, have I sold myself on good old-fashioned unglazed cast iron pans? I don't know. Here's my opinion, FWIW. I think cast iron is a great kind of pan to use if you're actually gonna use it, like all the time. If you're gonna stick it into the drawer for like months at a time, bad things can start to happen. That oil that you put on the inside of it after you cooked with it the last time, that could go rancid, and the pan could start to rust, to the point where you would have to take your pan to my buddy David, and he would have to dip it into some of his chemicals that are hooked up to a car battery. You'll talk now, Mr. Bond. If you're gonna use it, I say use it. If not,
yeah, go with the stainless. It's easier. Even easier than that is Squarespace, the sponsor of this video. It's actually the easy option and the low-cost option if you need to have some kind of online presence. Once you've picked a template that aligns with what you're trying to do in the world, you just fly in some pictures or some text of your own and add on whatever you need. Maybe you need to sell a product. Squarespace can do all the credit card stuff for you. Maybe you need to let people schedule appointments with you. There's a whole calendar situation for that. Maybe you need to let someone else worry about all of this. You can hire a Squarespace expert to put together your site for you if you have other things that need your attention more urgently. Once it's ready, Squarespace hosts the site for you, and you can save 10% when you publish or when you register a domain by going to squarespace.com/Ragusia and entering my code Ragusia. You'll be doing us both a favor. That's all in the description. Thank you, Squarespace. Now choose your weapon and get cooking.